Good morning, Savannah, and welcome to the Savannah Business Showcase. This morning, I have with me Casey Herrington and Portia Keene, co-founders of Geoseekers, a kayaking adventure company headquartered here in Savannah that offers guided tours off of Tybee and the surrounding islands. All right, so guys, welcome to the show. Before I let you introduce yourselves, I want to ask you each a question. So what did you want to be when you grew up, and how does that relate to Geoseekers?
All right, well, I guess I'll let Portia take this one away.
I guess I've always wanted to own my own business, so kind of going with this idea of how much I love adventure. I've always been traveling. I guess always been a little odd in that sense, where I'd go out into the woods and play with the boys and stuff like that. But I always kind of had this leadership sense in me, and so I wanted to run with that and start my own adventure company.
Awesome.
Well, I think growing up, whenever I imagined what I wanted to be, at the time I don't think I would have, had this answer. But looking back at it, I was always into sports, and being outdoors, and I always kind of had the entrepreneurial spirit just kind of growing up, and it was just a natural fit after rolling off one of my first companies to start another company that kind of encompassed my passion for outdoor adventure.
Awesome. Okay. All right, so that was Casey. The first person here was Portia Keene. So introduce yourselves now, and I'll back off.
Well, my name's Casey Herrington. I'm co-founder and owner of Geoseekers.
Where you from? What do you do? I mean, yeah, like what else do you do? Where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Effingham County, but I've lived in Savannah for the past 7 years.
Okay.
I actually work for the Technology Association of Georgia as their Savannah director, and coming up on 2 years doing that.
Nice.
And then run Geoseekers on the weekends.
Awesome. Okay. Same to you, Portia.
My name's Portia Keene. I'm 23 years old, and I was born and raised in Georgia. I moved down to Savannah for college about 5 years ago, and I decided to stay because I love it so much. My day job is also in downtown Savannah. I work for Parker's. I'm their fuel administrator, so I do supply logistics for them, and then on the weekends, I love getting away on these kayak adventures.
I bet. So what made you guys decide to start the kayaking tour company, Geoseekers? What made you decide to start it?
So it was December of 2015. I was rolling off of a failed technology startup that I had started right after college, and really looking for something to kind of start up again, but I wanted to encompass a little bit more of what I was passionate about, because I knew that I would be able to give consistent action towards something that I cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And around that time, I started doing a lot more outdoor adventuring, a little bit of climbing, and it made sense that I wanted to pursue something here in Savannah that was related to that. And I was always an avid kayaker, so it just made sense. And me and Portia met probably about January of 2016.
Yep.
And we just kind of decided that we both cared about the same thing. Mm-hmm. We both cared about entrepreneurship. We both cared about outdoor adventure, and we wanted to kind of bring that to other people. So we just kind of moved forward, set up a timeline, and had everything ready before the season started. So we doing this part-time, we got everything set up. We got all the equipment shipped from overseas before the kayaking season started of that year. So it was a lot of work kind of crammed into a few months.
Mm-hmm. I bet. So you mentioned getting into climbing, and I read your bios on geoseekers.com. You guys have done like a lot of adventuring put together. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'll let Portia take it away here, because she actually just did a half Ironman.
What?
70.3 miles.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Tell me about that.
We'll start with a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike ride, and then a 13.1 mile run.
Oh, man.
Back to back to back. It took me, I think, just over 7 hours consecutively. But it was great. I loved it. I love training up for it. I love doing it, and I want to do more, and I want to do a full one, which is 140 miles. But Casey and I, we really love trying new things, like this Ironman that I just decided to try. We like to try things that aren't so easy and do take training and trials and errors, and it's different. We like to, try things that not everyone can say that they've done. And I like to try everything. That's my bucket list, is just to do as much as I can in what time I have here on this earth.
Right.
So with that, we knew we wanted to start an adventure company, and we don't want to just be kayaking. We want to venture out into more sports, recreations, that nature. We decided to start with kayaking because the region that we're in right now is perfect for that. And we both have kayaked. I know Casey grew up kind of kayaking off the coast. He knows a lot more about the secret waterways than I do, but it's really fun, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm doing my first half marathon in 2 weeks, and I'm not ready. I'm going up to Brooklyn with a friend, and we're going to do a half marathon together.
Oh, nice.
And I signed up for the Rock and Roll Marathon here in Savannah, too, at the end of the year, so I'll be doing that.
Nice.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll be after you, but you'll see me at the end. That's so cool. Okay, so what else have you done? Because you guys have hiked the Himalayas and ridden alpacas and done all this crazy stuff. So tell the people about some of the crazy stuff you've done.
The most recent thing I've done was I went climbing in the Sierra Nevadas in January, early January. And the crazy thing about that trip was I went and climbed a mountain called Boundary Peak. It's in the Sierra Nevadas. It's on the border of California and Nevada. Hence the name Boundary Peak. It's the tallest point in Nevada, and it's in the middle of nowhere. There is not much out there. If you get stuck on that mountain, there's no one coming to help you. And there was some bad weather moving in, and we actually dropped a lot of our equipment so we could make it up in speed.
Yeah.
And so we're climbing as fast as we can. And we have our turnaround time of about 3:30. So basically it's saying, okay, if we turn around at 3:30, we can make sure we get far enough down so that we can have enough light to navigate back.
Yeah.
And 3 o'clock rolls around, and the guy I'm climbing with, Greg, he is about 75, maybe 100 yards behind me, and I hear him yell. And he kind of waves that he's going to start climbing back down the mountain because he doesn't think we can make it to the top in time before the turnaround time. And I just kind of, I point towards the summit and tell him I'm going to keep climbing at least until 3:30 to see how far I can get up. And so I keep climbing. I push it until about 4 o'clock, and I'm kind of sitting there, and I stop myself, and I kind of gauge how much time do I have left in the day, how much further do I have to go, and am I going to be able to do it before it gets dark. And I know I could reach the summit in about 45 minutes. But I had to make this decision of I can push for it, and I can make it. I have the energy. But then I'm going to have to climb back down in the dark with just my headlamp. But what I didn't know at the time was that my headlamp didn't work.
Oh.
So I didn't have lithium batteries in my headlamp, and it actually got so cold that it just wouldn't work. So I did make the decision to turn back at that point. A good thing I did, because it wasn't until I got far enough down the mountain that I realized it didn't work. And at that point, I was close enough. I'd caught up with Greg, and we just used his headlamp to hike out the rest of the way in the dark.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And I know that was a hard decision too, because once you get so close to the top, you just want to keep going.
Yeah.
You could, especially if you could see it almost.
Oh yeah, it was right there.
Yeah. You just want to keep going. That's pretty cool. I mean, and to relate it back to business, in business you have to make hard decisions all the time, even especially if you can't see. You don't always see the top, or if you do see the top, you see the finish line, or there's a new opportunity right around the corner, but you can't always take it. So to relate it back, for the listeners out there who want to start something, tell them about a hard decision that you guys had to make in starting Geoseekers.
I think that it's the biggest motivator for action in the entrepreneurial realm is certainty. And I think that you kind of have to stay optimistic, as much as possible. And in order to do that, what we did is we put together a really rigorous timeline so that our decisions were already made before we had to struggle over trying to decide. So we sat down, we put a rigorous timeline together, and that really helped us kind of get a lot done in a small window.
Nice.
So that would be my recommendation. Do your research and then put together a strong plan that stretches out over 2 months that really puts you in a promising spot at the end of that 2 months.
Yeah.
And of course, plans change, so you need to be flexible and have an open mind for everything you do in business, because not everything's going to work out, and that's just part of the challenge, is to kind of be able to, okay, this doesn't work out, so let me try something else and not just give up if that one thing didn't work out.
Awesome. Yeah, and you kind of have to have that adventurous spirit anyway to be a business. Okay, awesome. So, next question. What is a failure that you guys have had?
Oh man.
And then I'll ask you about a success.
Yeah. Well, my last semester in college, I took a capstone course, was entrepreneurship. And me and a buddy of mine, Andy Caviston, we worked on a technology startup that went outside of college. We worked on it for about 8 months outside of college, trying to get it going. And it ultimately didn't pan out. And, we can come up with a lot of reasons. The idea was crowdsourcing delivery, and we were using a mobile application to do that. And, we could say that the Savannah market wasn't large enough. We couldn't, maintain a high enough order volume to justify the costs. But more so than anything is that we didn't have the passion behind the idea to move to a primary city. This idea at the time, it was very popular. Whenever we got out of college, every month there was a new competitor entering the market with a very similar idea.
Wow. Okay.
And they were doing this in primary cities. This wasn't in tertiary markets yet because of the low population. So we could have easily have moved, taken our team, moved to a primary city, and kept this thing going. That wouldn't have been a problem. But we weren't passionate about it enough to move to Atlanta or some larger city, which I think played a huge role whenever I was deciding what company I was going to start up next. I wanted to make sure that it was something that I was going to enjoy doing. So that first failure really played a huge role in my decision in what was going to be the next project. Yeah,
you gotta go too. What was the failure you had?
Failure I had. I also had a startup of my own.
Okay.
I was working all by myself, and it was called Spiral Unbound, and it was a way to kind of get scholarships to college students. I know personally, because it was something I was passionate about, because I love to learn and I want to help other people, learn and get the education they want, but that can't always happen if they don't have the financial means to be able to receive that education. So with Spiral Unbound, it kind of linked the community around the school with the students. The community would kind of post ads in a notebook, which the notebooks would be given for free to students, which is a source of school supplies. And then the money that was paid towards the ads would then go towards a scholarship fund specific for that school. I was starting at my own college, Armstrong, and because I was working alone, and maybe other reasons why too, I was working on it, and I walked around for hours handing out flyers to local businesses, and they were all saying it's a great idea, we're interested, but I never really got any calls after that initial impression. So when I was going to go with it for that first semester, I had gotten 0 calls for ads. The school itself kept asking me back about the scholarships and stuff of that nature, because of course that's something the school is interested to give more money to their students.
Right.
But because I didn't get the funding that I needed to be able to do that, I wasn't able to go with that. And also while I was working on that project, that's when I met Casey, and we were both passionate about this, and having a partner going into something is a lot easier than trying to go in something alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of having someone to push you, you push them, you each have these assignments, it's easier to kind of do what you set yourself to because you have someone pushing you to keep going.
Right. I agree. Definitely thank you guys for being open about talking about your failure. Most people can't do it. Most people try and lock it away and never talk about it again. But if you didn't go through that, then you wouldn't be where you are now.
Right.
So the next step, talk about partnerships, because I've had a partnership with a past business before that failed, and there were 3 of us, and part of the 50% of the business was me trying to mediate those 2 guys butting heads. So talk about the pros and cons of being in partnerships. Casey, you've been in 2, and Portia, now you're in this one, and
so I would strongly recommend partnerships.
Okay.
Extremely, and you really want to try to find someone who kind of balances out your skill set the best that you can.
Mm-hmm.
But you also need to know that you're going to be working with this person for an extended period of time, and you have to be able to work together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to come up with some good takeaway advice here. Drawing a blank.
They always say you want to find a partner who you think has better skills and maybe even smarter than you are, because they can push you, and most times they think the very same. If they think you're smarter than them, you're going to keep continuing to push each other to get those ideas that you want, and being able to talk openly with each other. I mean, that's huge, because you don't want one person to be throwing out all the ideas and the other person just kind of keeping ideas in their heads, because one person isn't always right.
Right.
And you come up with the best ideas by talking out loud and kind of working from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that being very, very specific about what roles each person serves it's crucial, and being very transparent about everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's also crucial. So, for example, the roles that me and Portia serve in Geoseekers, it's pretty simple. Portia's in charge of marketing, so her job is to get the phone to ring.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is when the phone rings to make sure the service is facilitated. So I'm operations.
Nice. Okay.
So it's pretty clear, and we know it needs to be done because of that. We know what responsibilities fall on our shoulders.
Good. All right, that's good. So what are some of the cons from your past partnerships that you would warn people about? Because the pros are that you find another person that can amplify your skills in a way. You guys can work from each other. You can split the roles, split up the duties. So what are some of the cons?
I think some of the cons is if you're partnered with someone who has a skill set that you don't quite understand.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that you're starting a technology company and you have a software developer as your partner, and you don't quite understand the software development side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for you to hold them accountable as far as a timeline
mm-hmm.
and actionable items, just because you don't know how long those things are supposed to take.
True.
You don't know how to manage someone with a skill set that you don't understand. So I think that can be a con. And that's, in the past, I would say that is something that, has happened to me. I've worked with a software developer in our previous company, and, he did a fantastic job, but it still was always in the back of your mind, like I was always asking him for a timeline. And then every time, we would get a timeline, you're just not really sure if it's accurate or, if it's something that you can go, hang your hat on. But
Right.
that's probably the biggest con.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's switch over and talk about Geoseekers a little bit. So, like, what do you guys see as the value that Geoseekers adds to the community?
So I think that everybody needs adventure in their life.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to get out of the office. They need to get out in the open air. Water is very therapeutic. And I think that a lot of people find, a lot of meaning in nature whenever they're out and about. I know that we do. And it's something that we want to share with other people. I love going out on these tours and taking people out because I get to experience them a lot of times at their happiest times of the year. They're out there and they're really, really loving being out there, and it's awesome to kind of be the one who shares that with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a huge value to any community, honestly.
Yeah.
And having kayaking in this region, we have a huge market that we're trying to please. There's lots of military, students, and then vacationers, and they're all looking for something new to do. Whether they've done kayaking before, whether they're first-time kayakers, Geoseekers is kind of perfect for that because we go out and we kind of teach them what they want, what they need to know to kayak, but then it's kind of hands-off so they can enjoy the tour for themselves and also try that new thing that they wanted to try. And I guess if people get bored, on the weekends here in school, maybe they don't have homework or something, they can come out and kayaking, and the weather is beautiful for it. We're right here on the beach, so it's perfect.
Yeah, any weekend outside of St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah.
It's a great weekend for kayaking. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so what was the moment like? Did you guys have a light bulb go off that said Geoseekers is it, or was it like a really data-driven decision to start Geoseekers?
It wasn't data-driven.
Okay.
But I don't want to say that there was an epiphany either. It was really, it was calculated, but I don't want to say it was data-driven.
Okay.
So for me, I took inventory of what I had done in the past, what I really enjoyed doing, and how I could take that and project it and, derive some monetary return off of it. And it was, just a lot of pondering on that kind of things, jotting down notes, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, things I wanted to avoid, potential options, just kind of thinking that over time, and then eventually just coming, giving yourself a deadline and saying, okay, you need to come up with a decision, by this time. And then, that's just kind of how the mental process worked for me whenever I was trying to decide the next project.
Mm-hmm.
So it was calculated, but it's not like we were looking at. I was definitely not looking at, which industry has the biggest margins.
Gotcha.
Because that's not the case here. It was more so, what project could I focus on for a sustained period of time and apply consistent action to, and it has to be something that I care about. So that was the calculation behind it.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm feeling this. I think I've learned something about you today, Casey. That you're very tactical, and I think that's something that most people don't have, but it's really a trait that you need in business. You have to be kind of tactical. You pushed it a little bit, trying to get to the top of the mountain, but you still turned around. Like you definitely thought it through. You're able to overcome your emotions, and you can think clearly on your feet, which is something that you definitely need in business, because that's my downfall anyway, is that I'll see a good opportunity and I'll run for it, and I'll end up with my hand in 10 different honey pots. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's cool. Okay. So what was the research like for Geoseekers? Like before you started, how did you research, or how did you research the market? How did you compare your competitors?
We would definitely look at competitors and just kind of try to gauge on how they handle their operations, because they've been in the game for a few years longer than we have, and it's always good to do that. It's always good to inventory what your competitors do, because a lot of times you can kind of hold back and you can resent your competitors in a way, and you don't really care about what they're doing. But I think it's important to look at someone who has gone through the process of starting a company that's similar to yours and see what conclusion they've come through, because you're about to go through the same problem, and it's likely that you're going to come to a similar conclusion. So kind of look at what they've done and see how, if there's something that you don't like, put your own spin on it, and if there's some good takeaways, you need to take advantage of that. So that was probably the biggest thing, was just trying to see what are the best takeaways we could take from our competitors, and then how can we add additional value to that. So from a research standpoint, that was probably it. And then most of it was, okay, how are we going to get our equipment? How are we going to run our operations? Because this is a side business.
Right.
And, with it being a side business, you have to be very forward thinking, and as far as serving your customers, because it's hard whenever you can't be there at any given point, because customers don't like to wait. Even if they contact you during the week and you're not technically open during the week, they don't like to wait. So that's kind of the way we thought about it.
Awesome. Okay. And Portia, I would like to hear more from you. What is so on the marketing side of the business, like what are you doing that's really working, and what are you doing that's really working? Start with there.
Well, I guess we just recently started Google Ads, which has definitely started helping us get more clicks, because it's really easy for us to go onto our dashboard and see who's actually viewing it, how many clicks we're getting, and getting phone calls, which is great because we need the phone to be ringing. I know we can definitely work on more advertising with the marketing, but unfortunately the budget for marketing isn't as big as it would be needed to be able to do a little more outreach. What we do know, when people come to Savannah, maybe they're flying into Savannah, they're stopping at the visitor centers. We have flyers there.
Nice.
So we have these great rec cards that catch people's attention, and they pick them up, and hopefully they call our number.
Yeah.
We have that. We have an active Facebook page where we, after each trip, we post our pictures and get those people who actually took the tour. They'll usually end up sharing it and telling their friends about it. With the military life right here and the student life, we've actually done student tours through SCAD. One class actually, they were learning to build a kayak.
Oh, really?
And so they thought it would be a great idea to come out and actually get a feel for a kayak and see kind of how it works in real life. So then when they go back to build it, maybe they could think of a different way to curve part of it, or something of that nature. But there is a lot of word of mouth. We've noticed lots of friends and friends of friends
Right, yeah.
coming through.
The best advertising because it's free, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so it seems like you're kind of drawn to that side of the business. Why do you think that is?
I guess I have a little bit more of a creative mind when it comes to that. Unlike Casey, I do actually like writing. Writing goes a long way with trying to project to your audience and kind of get them. And then also with pictures are a huge thing, because people see a really good picture, they'll want to click on it and try and learn more. They don't want it to just be words.
Right.
So we got to take some really good pictures, which we do. We always go out there and take awesome pictures of the lighthouse. People are like, where is that? It seems so far away. But it's just right off the shore here, and you almost seem like you're in a completely different area.
I bet.
Of the world.
Cool. So what did you major in at Armstrong?
I actually did a dual degree, so I majored in business economics and health administration.
Okay.
A bit of an overachiever, but I wanted to take more of the business classes through the health part of it, and also get like a kind of see what's so different. Which there's not much. A lot of the classes were very similar, but I guess it just broadened my education and
Yeah.
I had to see a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Now you're both from Savannah, right? Or no?
It depends on where you're from. So if you're from the area, I would say I'm from Effingham.
Okay.
But yeah, I just say Savannah. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And then I'm from Woodstock, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. I would love to move to Atlanta. Side note, just for the mountain and the Appalachian Trail and all the good hiking up
Right.
there.
Yep.
But I don't think I could deal with the traffic in Atlanta.
It's tough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that said, we'll take a quick break, and we will come back shortly. And we're back. You're back listening to the Savannah Business Showcase, and I'm here with Casey Herrington and Portia Keene of Geoseekers. You can find them at geoseekers.com. Kayaking tour company here in Savannah, Georgia, that does tours on Tybee and some of the other islands out there. All right, so right now we're going to do a lightning round. You guys I would like to hear both of you answer the questions. You can answer as long or short as you like. All right, so here we go. Who influenced you early in life, and who's your mentor now? Either or.
Okay, I guess I could say my mom. She's always been pushing me to kind of do whatever I want, like in a good way, to do whatever I want. She's always been supportive of me traveling on my own. I was 19 and I told her that I wanted to go to Europe for a month, and she said, "A month, that's it." She bought the plane ticket for me, and my sister and we went out there for a month. My mom's quite the adventurer herself. I know she lived in Europe for a year and kind of did her own traveling, and she actually also owned her own business.
Okay.
And so I kind of get a lot of my characteristics from her, my kind of sense to do anything and try anything from her.
Awesome.
Wow. As far as people who have influenced me, there's so many.
Yeah.
I would start off with my dad. He always set high standards, growing up. Always somebody to look up to. I have to say that my great uncle Larry, he really inspired me and got me into self-education and reading a lot of books. Right after I graduated from high school, and then my entrepreneurship professor in college, Bob Lee. Not only did he teach me in that last semester and really kind of pushed me over into the entrepreneurial realm, but he worked a lot with me after graduation, and we still stay in constant contact.
Awesome.
He's probably, as of right now, one of my mentors, but also just books. I would say that my mentors expand across authors who write, and I read all the time, and that's probably, I guess, where I get my mentorship from.
Yeah.
It's from those books.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. That said, next question. Favorite book?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I love it. I can relate. And she is just an adventurer, always trying new things and kind of reading something, and she kind of interprets it her own way, and I just love that. I just love a book I could read a million times and it never gets old.
I would say the Richest Man in Babylon. That was probably one of the first books that really got me into it. So it's a good book. Everybody should read it, but it's also I guess a little bit more sentimental in forms of favorite book.
Mm-hmm. All right. So there's this thing called Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. So 20% of the things that you do in business or in life reflect, are pretty much mean the 80% of the results you got to get. So 20% of the action equal 80% of the results. So in Geoseekers and in business, what do you consider to be the 20% of things? What's the 20% for you that gets you 80% of the results?
We're really trying to figure that out right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up on our second season. We're experimenting with a few different marketing approaches, and we're trying to figure out where that 20% really is.
Mm.
I think that Google AdWords is going to be very promising. But if we had to say anything right now, we would say that we've probably gotten a majority of our tour participants through Groupon.
Okay.
So as far as people attending our tours, that's our 20%.
Gotcha. Anything to add?
No, we get a lot of tours from Groupon, but yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So, all right. Next question. Is there a quote that has always been a mantra for you throughout life?
Yes. Those who travel alone can leave today, but those who travels with others must wait till the other is ready. Henry Thoreau.
Mm.
I've always loved that quote because I live by it. I realize that I can't keep waiting around, waiting for someone to go with me to do something. If I want to do it, I have to go out there and do it myself. So yeah, it's my favorite quote. When I did the 2-3 Novembers ago, me and two other friends were going to go do the Appalachian, just the Georgia part of the Appalachian Trail is 76 miles.
Mm-hmm.
After the first day, it was going to take 7 days. After the first day, the two girls decided to have their moms come pick them up.
Oh, no.
I wasn't going to I planned to do that trip. I was going to keep doing that trip, so I went on and did it by myself. I mean, it was scary walking through the woods myself. I had a machete with me.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't know what damage that was going to do. But my first night alone, I got to the camp really late. I couldn't find the bear cables, so I stuck my bag up in the rafters of the shelter I was staying in, but some rats got into it and ate about 2 days worth of food. But that didn't stop me. I was just like, I am determined to keep going and do this. So I actually finished all 76 miles in 5 days instead of the 7. And yeah, I was scared, but I'm so glad that I kept going and doing it. And I mean, I've even traveled to different countries by myself just because, like I said, if you're waiting for somebody else, it's not. Sometimes it might just not happen.
Right. That's amazing. That's pretty amazing. All right, I'm very impressed. Okay. All right, Casey.
So my favorite quote is from Theodore Roosevelt. It's the "Man in the Arena" quote. Mm-hmm. And it's actually very long. I don't know if you want me to read it.
Go for it. Yeah, we got time.
It's actually an abbreviated. But the reason why I love this quote is because there's a lot of uncertainty in entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of fear of failure. It's hardwired into most of us. Mm-hmm. So this quote really kind of, puts that to rest and urges people to continue to try despite the uncertainties. Mm-hmm. So it goes, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And that's actually an abbreviated version. Yeah.
Makes me want to like roar. Listening to you guys. Okay. All right. Next question. Do you consider yourselves an introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert. I feed off of the energy of other people. I don't know. I consider myself a social butterfly, so I just want to be active and be involved, and the more people, the better, is what I say.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a tough one for me to answer.
Mm-hmm. So you're an introvert.
I would consider I would consider myself an introvert. If I had to choose between extrovert and introvert, I would consider myself an introvert, but not so far on the spectrum, towards introvert. I would say more towards the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can pull out extroverted tendencies whenever it's necessary.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
I've always had this fascination with Australia.
Okay.
I've never been. It's still on my list, but I've always wanted to go there. I don't know if it's just the sense of adventure being over there, just being in the outback, being surrounded by the ocean, it just being its little island. I've always found something so unique about Australia that I just always wanted to go there and live there. Yeah.
They have scary spiders there.
Yeah. They have some
huge spiders.
Interesting, creatures out there.
I would say New Zealand.
Okay.
Just because of the vast terrain. You can go up north and climb in the mountains, or you can go down south and hang out at the beaches. It's kind of hard to get anywhere else, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
it'd be cool to go to a rugby game in New Zealand. Hear the chant. That is New Zealand, right? Where they do the chant, the rugby chant. You guys, okay.
I don't know.
I'll show it to you after this. All right, we'll look it up. It'll get you pumped. Right, I'm pretty sure it's New Zealand.
I'm already excited about it.
Okay, and last question, and then we'll round it up. Advice for new entrepreneurs and people who want to get started in a business and don't know what to do. What's your advice?
Okay. If anybody is interested in getting started with a new project, I would say take action as soon as possible. And I know that you probably hear that a lot, is to take action, but what you can really break that down into 3 different things that are really connected. So research, plan, and then engage. So you need, whatever your idea is, you need to do a lot of research. You need to do a lot of research on the competition, and you need to do a lot of research on what steps are going to be necessary. So that's the planning phase, and then engage. So then you follow through with your plan. So you research, and you plan, and then you engage, and try to get started as soon as possible, because feedback is crazy valuable. And anyone who comes up to me and says that they have an idea and they want to start a business, the first thing I tell them is to get started as soon as possible. And what I mean whenever I say that is talk to a customer. Talk to someone who is going to potentially give you money for this product or service, and get feedback from them. Pre-sell if you have to, but just get started as soon as possible.
For future entrepreneurs, I'd say find something to pursue that you're really passionate about. If you're going to make this your life, you don't want to find something that's going to bore you quickly, or you're just going to become uninterested. Have something that maybe it's always been a dream, and just it's easiest to work really hard towards something if it's your dream that you want to make true. Mm-hmm. So like Casey said, you do need to have a lot of plan and forethought. You can't just let your dream run wild, but you want to make that dream a reality. Mm-hmm. So you do need to write down a business plan to kind of see what you want to do now, what you want to do, and what you want to do in the future, and how you, even a few ways on how you want to grow your business. But you want to think big, but you also need to be able to focus in on small details, because it's the small details that come together to create your masterpiece.
Yeah. Good advice, guys. I thank you guys for joining me. Thank you everybody out there for listening this morning. So how can the listeners find you?
Well, they can find us at www.geoseekers.com. We're on Facebook. You can call us and we'll answer.
Awesome. Okay, just Geoseekers on Facebook. No special link. Okay, perfect.
Geoseekers.com.
Geoseekers.com or Geoseekers on Facebook. Perfect. Okay. All right. Thank you, Casey and Georgia. Portia. Thank you, Casey and Portia, for being on the Savannah Business Showcase. Everybody out there listening, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next week.